India is witnessing a large-scale crackdown on Muslims, primarily Bengali Muslims, who are being evicted from their homes and expelled from the country. It is an alarming development that has its roots in what seemed to be a simple bureaucratic exercise 6 years ago, the updating of India's National Register of Citizens, the NRC. For many, despite being born and raised in India, despite being Indian citizens, their names are missing from that list. The outcome? Mass deportations into neighboring Bangladesh. Anyone who has been tracking Indian politics could have seen this coming. For more than a decade now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's BJP government has systematically dehumanized Muslims, especially those of Bengali ethnicity. They have been branded infiltrators. That kind of messaging gets amplified on countless Indian news outlets by journalists all too willing to cast a minority group as a threat to the Hindu majority. However, the deportations are just one byproduct of a larger BJP political project, one that often abandons due legal process, weaponizes citizenship, and has Muslims asking themselves, is there a place for them in India in 2025? Having spent more than 10 years under the rule of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his party, the BJP, Indian Muslims have repeatedly been othered, treated as some kind of enemy within. The current crackdown in the northeastern state of Assam, the forced deportation of Bengali Muslims there, Indian citizens, to neighboring Bangladesh, is just the latest manifestation of that. And with the effects of the crackdown spreading well beyond Assam, Muslims all over India have good reason to panic, to lie low, to watch their words.
If a person speaks Bengali, if he is of Muslim faith, he's picked up and he's asked to prove his or her citizenship. So this poor working class person has to prove to a policeman that he is Indian. And the policemen very often, they carry prejudices of their own. And so we've seen a number of bona fide Indians being dumped into Bangladesh. People producing, absolutely horrific videos, and the result is migrant workers in cities like Delhi, like Bombay, in states like Gujarat, Orissa, have fled back.
It was very often ordinary citizens who are calling the cops and saying, I saw a fruit vendor down the street speaking Bengali, and I think he's a Bangladeshi immigrant. And the cops come and they take him away. And the assumption was that all immigrants are illegal immigrants, right? Now, the axe invariably falls on Bengali Muslims because the immigrants from Bangladesh are considered to have come to India in very large numbers, and that is often used as a tool to create discontent among Indians, right?
For years now, the Modi government has been nurturing that discontent. At an election rally in 2018, its Home Minister, Amit Shah, called Bengali Muslims termites, which is as pernicious as it gets. As pejoratives go, however, infiltrators, the idea of unchecked illegal immigrants out to transform India internally, gets far more play.
Identifying millions of Bangladeshi infiltrators who have come into our country and purifying our land of the termites of infiltrators.
देश के किसी कोने से अगर आपने बांग्लादेशी घुसपैठियों को हटाया हो, कुछ किया हो इस मुद्दे पर तो बताइए.
Indian news anchors habitually justify the so-called verification process used to force Bengalis to prove their citizenship, while countless news channels delve into Hindu conspiracy theories about demographic replacement and Muslim birth rates.
देश के कई राज्यों में ये घुसपैठिए अपना डेरा जमाए हुए बैठे थे. इनकी तादाद भारत में इतनी है कि इन्होंने देश की डेमोग्राफी ही बदल डाली है.
A lot of outlets are presenting this story as, oh, there is a verification drive taking place to check who are the Bangladeshis, and so these people are being put in detention centers or part of that verification drive. There isn't much questioning, okay, what is this based on? Why is this happening so abruptly? Because you so blindly regurgitate whatever is being said, what ends up happening is manufacturing of consent, right?
A sort of a mass onslaught on Indians by mass media and a 24/7 pushing of certain narratives has desensitized Indians, and they have been beguiled into believing that there is indeed an enemy out there.
Those people who have infiltrated into our country are not coming here because of poverty, but rather with the intent of kind of conquering our country.
An us versus them narrative and an existential struggle. When you use words like termites, you dehumanize other human beings to such an extent that it no longer excites any compassion in you when that human is traumatized or attacked.
Hindus comprise around 80% of India's population. Muslims comprise about 14%. That means they're somewhere in the region of 200 million Muslims. The project to make them second-class citizens has been going on for over a decade. And a very, very substantial section of the so-called mainstream media has been amplifying this discourse. And remember that if 36% have voted for the BJP, 1 out of 3 Indians has been brainwashed into believing that their enemy is the Muslim.
Political narratives designed to divide electorates are more effective when they go beyond casting the other as the enemy, when they also convince voters, in this case Hindus, that they are being victimized. In a country where 4 out of 5 people are Hindus, that takes some doing, which is where India's unique media landscape factors in. It has more than 400 24-hour television news channels, far more than any other country, and most of them are dependent on government advertising revenues to keep them in business. The end result is a highly competitive news sector, channels desperate to outdo each other in backing Narendra Modi's BJP, which means they spread the Hindu victimhood narrative.
But time and again, Hindus find that they're taken for granted. They find themselves at the receiving end of derision or plain contempt.
But when examined, that notion of Hindu victimization falls apart.
Demographically, Hindus are definitely in a majority, but more important than just numbers, culturally, socially, politically, educationally, in all of these spheres, Hindus are dominant. So this idea of the Hindu being under threat is a fake idea. It's a creation of victimhood that has been encouraged by television channels, influencers, and social media, all of them saying the same thing, that the Hindu is under threat. That is where the maximum mischief has been done, the sense of continuous victimhood and the idea of the Muslim as the enemy.
I've had friends who would tell me that, my parents are getting brainwashed. For the vast majority of people, if you sit them in front of a screen and you broadcast one thing, at least some percentage of them will get turned. We're seeing this happen again and again, and it's only independent media, some conscientious YouTubers, my outlet Scroll, questioning power, questioning the government. Unfortunately, mainstream media has actually made matters worse. And it's just constant, like it's 24/7 without any hesitation, without any shame.
To the point that the BJP and its supporters are now meting out what they call bulldozer justice. Bulldozers and excavators are being used to demolish mosques and the homes of so-called Muslim infiltrators, or Muslims suspected of committing a crime. And not just in Assam, but in cities like New Delhi and Mumbai. News anchors have jumped on board, providing play-by-play accounts of demolitions taking place, often with no due process, no proof of wrongdoing.
आज तक इस पर वक्त एक्सक्लूसिव तस्वीरें आपको दिखाता हुआ मस्जिद के ऊपर उसके सामने वाले हिस्से में जो अवैध निर्माण है उस पर पहला क्रेन चल गया.
That is what happens when politicians and the news outlets that do their bidding convince Hindus that somehow they are the victims in this story. They are liable to see the bulldozing of a Muslim
towards a form of othering of Muslims, of which bulldozer action is one subset, citizenship questions is another subset, and so on. Anti-Muslim prejudice has always been a part of the body politic in India, but we've seen a sort of shamelessness creep in. We've seen an explicit owning of that rhetoric. And the bulldozer is really a very, very ugly symbol that exemplifies this rhetoric.
It's unfortunate that this term, bulldozer justice, has been so quickly adopted by much of the mainstream media, right? Why is there no questioning of this term? How can it be bulldozer justice? Why is it not bulldozer oppression? The framing of the story is so skewed and so problematic, and it is a result of years and years of dehumanization, which much of the Indian media has been complicit in.
In India's most populous state, Uttar Pradesh, the chief minister has actually posed with a bulldozer. Now, the bulldozer has become a symbol of Hindu nationalism. So, the rhetoric, the narrative to demonize, to other the minority, the biggest minority community, the Muslims, and to spread Islamophobia continues.
The images streaming out of Gaza